These issues are corruption and governance, demographic challenges, environment and sustainability, poverty and inequity. And these groups, as you know, are going to create 3 to 5 minute films on their respective topics. Today, however, these groups are going to brief you on their very own action plans. And so without further ado, I would like to invite the representatives of the first group, Corruption and Governance, to present today. Thank you.
I just want to explain one thing before the presentation starts, that everyone in the audience is looking at these 4 groups and can play 2 roles. So each team has a director, has a team to help them make the movies over the next 3 days. Everyone else in the audience has 2 roles. This afternoon, there's going to be a chance to go and sit with each of the groups and listen to them and contribute and interact with them. But the purpose of these groups is they're trying to convince you as resources to work with them. And we will choose who we want to work with. We may want to work with all of them. We may want to work with one group because we're particularly passionate about their cause. We may want to work with 2 groups. So I think for everyone else in the audience, this is a chance to choose. The people you want to back, the teams you're excited to work with, the topics that you're passionate about. So I just want to lay the framework, and now in that context, you'll hear the 4 presentations. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Sania Ojha, and this is Sukrit Malik. This is Sukrit Malik. And we're going to speak to you about our group, and we've chosen the topic corruption and governance. So corruption comes from the Latin verb that means corruptus, which literally means to break. Literally, it also means a broken object. And to us, it signifies the broken dreams of millions, the shattered hopes of national progress and development. And as cliché as it sounds, as the future of this country, it is up to us to fix what is broken. And so we decided that we will start small. Even though corruption takes monstrous form in our country today, like most things, it starts small. It starts as one small vote in the hands of one person in one village in India. It starts as a power to choose. These individual votes assume great importance in light of the fact that almost 70% of our population is rural. Important decisions are made by people who have not been empowered, who have been ignored, who have no knowledge which is required to make these decisions. They've been brainwashed by corrupt campaign policies and practices. Often we hear about villagers who've been bribed with money or alcohol to vote in favor of one man or another, who've been packed in trucks and lured with money to attend political campaigns. And is this how we want the most important decision in our democracy to be made? This is where it starts, even before they're elected. And this is where it has to stop. And this is exactly where we come in. As young students, our greatest contribution to this cause can be one of intellectual capital. We as a group are disturbed by the irony inherent in India's claim to be the world's largest democracy and the fact that what it is most known for is corruption at every level of governance. We seek to eliminate this information asymmetry. We seek to bring this information to the people who play a huge role in making these decisions, which then shape the country that we live in. And our focus to do that is on knowledge. And pardon me for the second cliche, but knowledge is power. And so our aim as a group is to focus on awareness. And we, to spread awareness, focus on a 3-pronged approach, which Sukrit is now going to detail.
Corruption, as we all know, is not a single problem. It starts from the water that the milkman adds the milk in the morning, and it goes on to thousands of crores of rupees spent on Commonwealth Games in India, which went to corruption. Can we fight it everywhere? I doubt it. But we can try. And corruption exists because we allow it to exist, which is why we decided to make an action plan which is not merely an intellectual concept. On the contrary, our action plan is something that has evolved out of 1 year of extensive research and experience in villages and research. What we did find is that the panchayat is the most basic level of governance exists at the panchayat. And in order to tackle corruption, we need to tackle it from the most basic level, which is why we decided to start with a village in Haryana named Machrauli. Now, when you usually enter a village, we had the perception of huts, broken roads, and probably a Porsche parked outside the elected official's house. But that was not the case. Members of the panchayat had degrees in developmental economics and masters in computer science. There were paved roads and water, electricity, all those facilities were there 24/7. Now, this really made all of us curious. We all view villages in very different light, and even the people within them in a very different light. But as we researched further, we found out that even this educated panchayat had a lot of corruption in it. And what kind of corruption is a very amusing story, because when we decided to find out how these officials got elected, we found out that more than half the village was taken for a vacation to Shimla, which is a hill station, before the elections, and they all ended up voting for the person who paid for the vacation. Our action plan is a three-pronged approach, targeted at the 2014 general elections. The first is research into the real needs of the people of every specific village that we are dealing with. This research will be undertaken using anonymous surveying and a facility and utilities survey undertaken by the scholars who would be visiting these villages. The second being awareness. We don't support political factions when we spread awareness about our corruption and governance initiative. What we do is we want the people who are voting to know if a change in the educational policy at central government will affect how they get their new veterinarian, which will affect their cattle. They need to understand what they are voting for and how is it that their vote exactly counts. What do we hope to gain from this? Well, when the 2014 elections come and the next candidate decides to take them for a vacation, I only hope that they vote for him if he's standing as a tourism minister. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Now the representatives of the group Demographic Challenges will be presenting their action plans.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Vandanika, and this is Vanchika, and we're here to introduce to you on behalf of our Demographic Challenges team, our action plan. From the variety of themes within demographic challenges, especially for a country like India, we chose to focus on two important things: education and skill development. Why we chose this was because both education and skill development lie at the core of the multiple challenges India faces currently, whether that's in the health sector or whether that's environmentally. Everything backs down to how well educated you are, what kind of qualitative education did you get, and whether or not you're getting opportunity to develop your skills and then use them for your employment later on. We started with two things. Firstly, research. We did extensive research on the existing policy framework, starting with the Right to Education Act, the NREGA, existing models of skill development like the NSDC, etc. And having identified these issues, we progressed to better understand the status quo and India's landscape in this regard, given that we are focusing on education and skill development. what we did with the research, given that research is best used when shared and acted upon, we wanted to do two things with it. We wanted to create interactive activities with the underprivileged sector so that we can directly contribute to soft skill development of underprivileged children and the population. So we created interactive modules to enhance their skill set, whether that's soft skills, and also give them access to better education. The second aspect that we want to use our research for is to promote awareness about the importance of education and skill development. To tell you a little bit more about what we did within interactive activities and engagement with the community and how we want to progress in that regard, we had a pilot project in Diksha, which is a non-for-profit institution set up to provide free care and quality education to underprivileged children in Delhi NCR. Our team went for a whole day. We did a couple of activities in three aspects. We did theater activities, we did art activities, and we did sports. All of them surrounding themes of public speaking, communication, confidence building, teamwork, creativity, and applying their classroom knowledge into their daily lives. Next, we aim to go to Kaithal, which is in a district in Haryana, to expand our exposure and research base. This will be a case study of the district and further groundwork with Yuva Kendra clubs and women's groups to enhance soft skill development in that area. We aim to compile this research and takeaways from our pilot projects, both at Diksha and further on at Kaithal, to form a manual. This manual then is essentially going to be something that aids stakeholders in the development sector and hopefully across the country to improve education and skill building within their direct environment. People that they're interacting with constantly, young children, NGO organizers. We want them to have access to our research and our ideas that we have created as a pool of young budding students and leaders. So this manual fundamentally becomes a resource pool of ideas and a resource pool of information which is aimed at improving education and skill development, not only in these two particular case studies, but also further on in multiple other NGOs that have access to these children who need this sort of guidance and who need this sort of help. And so this manual then effectively becomes what we call our prospective idea lab. Vanchika will be elaborating on the idea lab and how we aim to use our exposure that we've gotten over the years and things that we've been getting in school through forums like the tGELF. We want to take that to more children and more to underprivileged students who don't get access to these facilities and this sort of guidance and mentorship. And we want to create an idea lab, which I'll pass on to Vanchika.
So just to recapitulate what we just gone through and to give it a structure, what the Idea Lab plans to do, and just to sort of take you through the stages. We had a few interactions and demonstrations at Diksha, and now we'll be going to Kaithal. After all of this, we will be compiling a manual. Now that manual will have data about certain areas, as Vandanika mentioned, right to education, NREGA, and skill development. And along with that, we'll have interactive games which disseminate knowledge on those three pillars in a fun and interactive way. And we'll have a feedback component. Once we have a manual in place, we plan to go and have a few pilot projects. And post that, we will try and form the Idea Lab, which will help in the scaling up of this idea. And just to clarify, the main concept behind our plan is to disseminate knowledge about certain areas in a fun and interactive way to school children and in some cases even their parents. So we will be, the content that we're developing will change and it's dynamic. So the Idea Lab is the long-term concept and the long-term idea that we have in mind. We'll be creating an incubation center, and that primarily means that we'll be having like-minded students across the world who will be working on research projects, on content creation for these manuals, implementation of projects, and assessment of these programs. So we'll have a group that's spread across the world that's doing all the research, and we'll have one group based in India which will be doing all the groundwork here with the NGOs and so on. We'll be having an online archive, a database, or a repository of innovative methods and projects on education and skill development that we will be developing. We're also trying to use, and the entire idea of the concept of the Idea Lab is to expand the manual and customize and localize it. If we're working with students, say in the age group of 12 to 15, the needs of that demographic group is different from those who are between, say, 17 and 20. So therefore, the Idea Lab is such that we will expand and broaden our base so that we can cater it to different age groups, different regions, and different target audiences. Along with that, we are trying to use different mediums. So I'll just give you an example. When we went to Diksha, as Vandanika mentioned, we used technology, we used videos, we did theater activities with them, we did sports, we did mental games with them, and we did a few interesting things. For example, we used Google Map. Now, everybody here has used that. So just imagine going to somebody from an economically weaker section or a marginalized group and interacting with them through that technology. We wanted to know how much do they know about that area they live in. Do they know about what are the other schools that are there? What are the hospitals that are there? Is there an airport? What are the transport facilities? Are there malls? What are the recreation centers? And truthfully, this was a very insightful process, because when we went there, we thought maybe it's a bit complex for students between the age of 12 to 14. But we were taken aback because they knew that entire area where they were living so well. And these were children of migrants who came from Bihar and UP. So what we plan on doing is using innovative methods such as Google Maps or using video chat, Skype, and bringing in technology along with other routine activities like theater and sports and so on. The next thing that, so I'll just quickly wrap up. And as I mentioned, right now, the 3 pillars are right to education, NREGA, and skill development. We plan to further intensify this and diversify onto different themes, be it urbanization, migration issues, and so on. And this will allow us to horizontally and vertically expand our project, which we're starting in a small way, but we hope this could lead to something big in the future. And our entire concept is one based on a bottom-up rather than a top-down model, and therefore we went to organizations like Diksha, and we'll be going to Kethel to understand the ground reality before we come up with a manual for our pilots. So this is a definitive yet flexible program that will allow our project to sustain and expand. So thank you so much, and I hope you found our project interesting and you will support us. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to invite members of the group Environment and Sustainability to come and present their action plan.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
We're just going to wait for our presentation to load. There we go.
You promised to keep it short.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chandrika Srivastav, and this is Siddharth, and we are members of the Environment and Sustainability Group. We're first going to tell you a little bit about our project.
How do you use this?
Is that the, sorry.
It's not the clicker.
We're just looking for the clicker. I'm sorry. Is that it? Okay, sorry. So we're just going to tell you a little bit about our project. And the environmental issue that we chose to address is waste. So waste is an entirely human concept. There is no such thing as waste in nature, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Anything that is produced gets broken down and becomes raw materials for another thing that's produced. So we started thinking about why we produce all this waste and what we do about it. Because waste in itself signals inefficiency, it signals overconsumption of resources, and it reduces the Earth's capacity to replenish its resources and make new materials, which is why recycling is extremely important.
So, as per the statistics, Delhi is the largest producer of municipality solid waste. As you can see in this map over here, there are about 4 main landfills in Delhi, and over 80% of this waste ends up in these massive dump sites. However, these landfills have exceeded their capacity, and essentially they shouldn't be used any longer, but they still are being used. Now, why are landfills bad? In short, they cause the generation of a gas called methane, which is more harmful than carbon dioxide itself. Landfills create a lot of carcinogens, air pollutants, and other harmful toxins as well. Moreover, they create leachate that leads to the contamination of groundwater, which is essentially obviously not good, because groundwater is the main natural water resource we have.
When we look at waste, we often forget about the human aspect of waste, the invisible saviors who do all the dirty work for us, the waste pickers. There's an entire army of people in every single city across India whose lives revolve around our trash. And together, collectively, they make a huge difference to reduce our impact on the planet. Recycling, the informal recycling sector usually constitutes about 1% of an average city's population, and they end up recycling about 15 to 20% of all the waste that's generated. And this is a fact that not too many people are aware of, but recycling in India is one of the most efficient systems anywhere in the world. And when you compare this to urban bodies spend most of their money on collection and transport of waste, but very few of them actually work in disposal and recycling.
Now, in Delhi, informal waste recycling reduces about 9.6 lakh tons of greenhouse gases. Now, looking at the human aspect for these waste pickers are given very, very little profit margins. They work in extremely hazardous conditions with no basic safety and sanitary precautions. Generations are doomed to follow the same profession. Waste pickers spend hours segregating the waste, and it would be much easier if the segregation is carried out in the individual level. The harshness and monotony of their lives is what deeply touched us.
And this is where our project comes in. When we learned about how much time these waste pickers spend on segregating their waste instead of recycling it and selling it, we realized we really should be doing all of this on our own. So our project is to create a sustainable, inclusive waste management program in schools to sensitize students to the urgent need to segregate and recycle waste. We want to create a value system in schools so that every single child in the school thinks about where that wrapper goes when they discard it. And we wanted them to start thinking about what they're purchasing and how much waste they're collecting. So we will get them to interact with their school waste pickers and encourage them to interact with their local waste pickers to learn more about how all of the recycling actually takes place. So our awareness leading to action campaign includes the local waste pickers and encourages students to take responsibility of their waste. A lot of people think about it as if they're doing a favor to the waste pickers by giving them their waste because they get a livelihood from it, but that's not the way we need to be thinking about our waste. If I generate some waste, it should be my responsibility to make sure it ends up in the right place and gets recycled in the proper, appropriate manner.
So our pilot project is named as Meet Your Waste Project, and it's being conducted in Tagore International School. We're also in collaboration with an NGO named Chintan, which is an award-winning NGO for the services in the same topic. We started off by conducting waste audits. As you can see, 2 of our members were literally in the dumps, segregating the waste, seeing what all is produced in the schools, and seeing what can be recycled, what cannot be recycled, what should go to the landfills, what should not go to the landfills. And we also taught the students of the school how to conduct audits for the future so that the sustainability of the project still remains and the project still carries on in the future. Our project also includes interactive workshops for the students to help create awareness among the students on the waste crisis. Our project also includes field trips to waste-related sites, which Chintan is probably going to be helping us in organizing those. Our main goal is that we hope that this project is adopted by several schools across Delhi and finally the country, so that we can make a huge impact, because we start with one school, but we want to go on and ensure that almost every school at least is practicing green in terms of waste. And then from then on, hopefully, the other sectors of the society can see that this is possible.
So our project is off to a small and humble start, but the future of waste in India does not look good. Studies show that we need about 1,400 square kilometers of space to accommodate the waste that we're going to be generating by the year 2050. And meanwhile, Article 51 of the Indian Constitution makes it the duty of every single citizen to preserve and protect the environment. So it really is time for us to ask ourselves what we're doing to live up to this duty. So today, we ask all of you to join us in our endeavor to inculcate in every single citizen, in every student, the mantra to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And what we found in our interactions with school students and teachers is that a lot of students want to recycle. A lot of students make the effort to put the waste in different bins. But what they're missing is, what they don't know is that a lot of their waste actually does get recycled. A lot of students think that even if they end up putting it in the right bin, it's all going to end up in the same landfill, nothing's going to happen to it. So we want to empower them and let them know that it does get recycled. You can make a difference. And more importantly, we want to sensitize them to the lives of the local rag pickers so that they know that they're making it easier for one person or 10 other people who don't have to spend hours and hours recycling their waste and sorting through the trash. So I hope you choose to join us and mentor us over the next couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now, last but not least, I would like to invite the members of Poverty and Inequity to present their action plans. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mehek, and this is Manu, and we're here representing the Poverty and Inequity Action Group. So when we first sat down to speak about this issue, we went off on many different directions, and an issue of such a mass can seem overwhelmingly complex and complex to address, and any simple solution can be easily undermined. However, through all of our discussions, we realized a need for literacy and education with a special emphasis on gender parity issues in India. So we decided to look into this issue further by the means of a research report, which explored the implementation and effectiveness of the RTE, various policies that address the issues, and various success stories that highlight a need for gender-balanced education. And the result of all of this research was a call for a monitoring mechanism that bridges the gap between incomplete knowledge about this issue and the efforts organizations are taking to solve this issue.
So what is it that we are telling you today? What is our deliverable? What can you invest in? And our answer is a knowledge base. Having only a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Acting on little knowledge is worse than not acting at all. And designing interventions without doing your homework only causes misery. Pick any of these lines and they all refer to the same concept and they all underpin the effort that we have made over this past year. Ours is a position derived from humility. We realize we don't know enough. We realize we can still know more. We realize that we cannot match the money that governments pour into this effort. We realize that we cannot match the time and expertise that many NGOs out there are putting into this issue. So we decided to adopt a more realistic approach. Our approach will be divided into 3 phases, is what we have planned as of now. Our first phase would be a knowledge base creation. So what we would be doing is we would be asking students who are part of our group and students through the tGELF network and delegates present at this conference, whoever would want to support us, to create this knowledge base and to lead the process. As Mehek said, we have created this report with various sort of aspects of this entire issue. We have looked into RTE, what's the implication, how it's being affected, how it's being put out there. We have looked at success stories that have their base in female literacy. And we have looked at other various issues about how the NGOs are doing their work. Then the second phase that we would be adopting, that would start beginning of next year and would span the next 6 months, would be knowledge sharing. We realize that just having this knowledge base won't just help out solve the issue. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to get this knowledge base, and we will be contacting various organizations all over the country, NGOs, government schools, government organizations, and we will be giving them this knowledge base to go through. And as we would be showing you later on when we make our film presentation, that this is not a report that has 500 pages. It is not something that is lengthy. It is a compact form of information that can be readily understood by everyone and anyone who looks at it. Then we will be moving on to our third phase, which is connecting different organizations to gain an efficient comparative advantage. What we would be doing is, let's say we have a lot of pilot programs out there that tend to not be as successful as they imagine. So we would be putting, let's say, two NGOs who have not been that successful, but they could provide each other a comparative advantage. We would be helping get this message across to government schools where we went and we saw that the children there don't even know about the 25% quota and the RTE. So we will be getting this message across to them. And as fellow tGELF members before us spoke, we saw corruption and governance, demographic challenges, and environment and sustainability. They all had an overarching theme of poverty and inequity and a need for more knowledge and literacy. So that is what we are aiming at, and more on gender parity education. And I hope that you would like our plan and support it. Thank you.
I would like to thank all the 4 groups for the wonderful presentations that we've had so far, and I'm sure that everyone is looking forward to working on and seeing those short films, so thank you for that very much.